How do Bitcoin futures work? I'm going to explain it in this video, so stay tuned. So I'm no futures expert by any means, but a lot of people have been asking me on Twitter or on YouTube, how do the futures work? How do the futures affect the overall price of Bitcoin? One of the things you need to remember here is the futures are not actually buying and selling the underlying. The underlying asset would be the Bitcoin. So each individual Bitcoin, that's not actually being exchanged on the futures contract. When the contracts are settled in the middle of January, they will be paid out in US dollars. It's not like people are going to be paid with Bitcoin. So it's not like the CBOE is going and buying a bunch of Bitcoin and holding it and using Bitcoin to, manipulate the markets. That's not happening. What's actually happening, people are basically just making bets. People are basically hedging their bets, so they're hedging against Bitcoin or whatever they want to do. They're using contracts to play in the volatility of the Bitcoin market without actually touching Bitcoin. So this is going to allow bigger institutional investors. This is going to allow future traders, all kinds of different people in the market to come in here and basically make a bet on the price of Bitcoin going into January. So this right now is the chart for the futures contract for January expiration. So somebody out there is buying contracts. The idea that I'm going to buy 3 contracts. Each contract represents 1 Bitcoin. So they're basically buying 1 contract thinking that the price of Bitcoin is going to be above this contract price in the future. So the goal here is to buy it at 18,000 and you're going to hope that Bitcoin is going to be more expensive than 18,000 going into the future. Same vice versa, people selling. I'm not sure people are able to actually sell right now futures in terms of shorting and stuff like that. But I think going into the future, that's going to be possible. But right now, the big thing is people are just loading up with contracts with the idea of Bitcoin being more expensive in January. So you can see last night, Bitcoin futures hit $18,885. So somebody got a contract that they were going to own with the idea that this is going to settle in the future in January. And the thing is, you can also trade these contracts. You can trade contracts in and out. If you own contracts at the 1885 area and you want to sell it, if it goes to 20,000, the contracts do, you can sell that. So there's a volatility in the futures themselves, but the actual futures are not going to be correlating directly with the actual assets. So it's not like the CBOE is moving Bitcoin around. It's not going to increase the actual transactions of Bitcoin with the future. There's only been like 3,500 contracts traded so far. It's still early. Last night, Bitcoin futures opened up. This morning, you can see kind of dip down there from the 1885 area. We're kind of holding 17,500 right now. So it looks pretty good. A lot of people were thinking that the futures were going to come out and this is really going to start crashing for some reason. This is just giving Bitcoin more validation. It's giving Bitcoin more people looking at it. More people in general. I saw all over CNBC today, people talking about Bitcoin futures, Bitcoin in general, cryptocurrency. That's the hottest topic right now in the Wall Street financial media news area. So everyone's talking about it. People are obviously going to be learning more about it as the week goes on here, learning about futures in general. And we'll see what happens heading into the middle of January, where these future contracts are sitting once we get to a better point of like, okay, we know, Bitcoin's hanging around $18,000. So as we get closer to expiration, are going to sit kind of right where that price of Bitcoin is. Obviously, Bitcoin is very volatile, so there will be some volatility here in the futures overall, but really it comes down to the futures just being a tool for people, an instrument for people to play in the Bitcoin world, but not actually owning Bitcoin. So it's kind of a weird thing. It allows, I guess, like bigger institutional stuff like that to kind of jump in and play with the volatility. But overall, Bitcoin futures are not going to be buying and selling the actual coins. It'll just be the contracts with the CBOE. So one of those things to think about. We'll see how this affects the overall market. We'll see if this actually stabilizes the market now that we have futures. So we can think, some of the overall bigger traders, some of the bigger banks can now kind of get in on this action on Bitcoin, and if that's going to stabilize the price or not. It's only the first day of future contracts trading, so we'll see what happens. Like I said, these are going to be settling in the middle of January. I think January 15th through the 17th area is when these first contracts will start settling, and we'll see how that goes. So check back here, middle of January. We'll see if the futures helped or hurt Bitcoin in the long run, and we'll see what happens. But I think overall right now, this whole Bitcoin future craze is really just helping the cryptocurrency world. We're getting more media attention, more people talking about it, more people looking at it, and the overall Wall Street people really kind of making more bets on Bitcoin and fueling the frenzy.